Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you. Let's hear it for Cori Bush, who started us off, brought the house down. Let's hear it. The pride of New York right now, Mondaire Jones and Jamal Bowman. Let's hear it for people who have been in this fight, Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar, and to the man who really helped and partnered in making sure that we start this whole thing off, Senator Ed Markey of Massachusetts, along with all of our other partners fighting for a Green New Deal. You know, it's really emotional. I found myself getting emotional hearing Cori and Jamal and Mondaire. Mondaire actually represents the district where I went to elementary school. He represents the district where I grew up in public school. And it's so emotional to hear him talk and champion these issues, because growing up as a little girl, I never, ever saw any elected representation that even really thought of me, let alone looked anything remotely like me. And to think that we could fast forward and we have champions like Mondaire Jones and Jamal Bowman and Cori Bush that are now being ushered into this wave, it shows that these issues are not a fluke. It shows that they are not a flash in the pan. It shows that they are not a hot new thing. What it shows is a deep yearning for climate justice and environmental action in the United States of America. It shows a deep commitment to climate change. It shows that this isn't 2015 anymore. This isn't 2010 anymore. It's not 2005 anymore. Climate is now a top 3 issue for voters across the country. And it's about time that our Congress and our administration starts acting like it. It's way past time. But what I think is so important is that every single person up here represents the power of the movement. It represents the power of indigenous communities organizing, the power of young people organizing, the power of the movement for Black Lives organizing, showing that climate is intersectional with every one of our needs and demands. It is tied to the treaty rights and liberties of indigenous peoples in the United States of America. Climate action is tied to reproductive justice. We can't talk about poison water without talking about how so many people across this country are denied the right to build a biological family because they've been poisoned by their own water. We can't talk about climate unless we're talking about the rights of young people to have a habitable planet, unless we're talking about the rights of working class people to have a job that guarantees them dignity. And it's only bold federal action that can guarantee these things. It is only that kind of transformational investment. Now, we have worked, and the movement has pushed. The movement is why I was elected to Congress. The movement is why Jamal and Cori and Mondaire are here today. You all, the movement is why Ilhan is here. The movement is why Rashida is here. The movement is why Ed Markey was protected this year. It was the movement. Because as we've been saying since day one, they've got money, but we've got people. We've got people. And at the end of the day, dollar bills don't vote, although they try to. We vote. People vote. Young people vote. And it's about time, long past time, that we recognize and understand that we owe our seats, we owe our political power because of young people, because of the movement for Black lives, because of women, because of the working class across this country. And it's a class issue, it's a race issue, it's a gender issue. That's why this work is so important. And because of the movement and the power that the movement has built, over 1 million calls were made in Texas alone. Over 1 million calls. We had calls made for, Jamal, you know how many calls were made for you in your race?
Yes.
How many?
Sunrise overall.
Yeah.
1.2 million overall, 865,000 by Sunrise.
There you go. The movement made 1 million calls for Jamal Bowman. So don't tell us about what young people can and can't do, what the movement for Black lives can and can't do, what the movement for climate justice can and can't do. And because you all have done the work, you all got us a seat at the table. We have worked with the Biden administration to secure commitment on a $2 trillion climate plan. $2 trillion. But we're not going to stop there. We're not going to stop with a piece of paper. That's not what's going to happen. We're not going to forget about that agreement for the sake of an election, are we? No. What we're going to do is that we're going to organize and demand that this administration, which I believe is decent and kind and honorable, keep their promise. So that's what our next move is. It's to make sure that the Biden administration keeps its promise. Kept its promise to young people, kept its promise to the Movement for Black Lives, kept its promise to communities and working class people across the United States of America. That's our message today, to keep your promise. And so we know that we don't just make that demand and walk away. We have to organize for it. We have to bring the heat for it, because there's a whole lot of people that tried to just shove a bunch of money before this election to try to buy their seat at the table. But we organized for ours, and we're not easily going to let that go. So our demand here is to make sure that we keep this promise, that we follow through on a visionary, absolutely unprecedented $2 trillion plan that's not just about money, but also it's one of the first presidential plans to honor the treaty rights of Native people. They're one of the first rights to make sure that we have environmental justice front and center, so that we make sure that we make up for redlining, that we make up for Flint, that we make up for Baltimore, that we make up for lead in the pipes across this country. So that's what this movement is all about. I want to thank you, and I don't want anybody here to think that we're not winning. Because let me tell you something, we're winning. It's working. It's happening. And we are going to secure a future. We're going to secure the basic tenets of a Green New Deal, a multi-trillion-dollar jobs program for climate, for environmental, racial, gender, and class justice. That's what the Green New Deal is, and we will stick to that plan. So thank you all so very much. And I hand it off to Rashida.